Welcome to the Team Victus podcast.
Great. Happy to be here.
Oh, you're awesome for joining. We're gonna have some fun making fun of Barry today, if you're okay with that.
I mean, if that's the agenda, I'm gonna have to follow the agenda. Sorry, B.
Just the way it's gonna go. That's kind of what we do.
Majority of the time we'll be spent doing that.
All right. Well, hey, Barry, do you want to give an introduction for everybody?
I don't
of
even
your
know
friend
at this point. So I've known Boris Rogers, Emmy award-winning Boris Rogers, also known as Bluz. And I've known him, it seems like forever. I mean, 40 years.
Yeah,
40 years.
Yeah.
Was a great friend of my brother growing up, which led him to be a great friend of mine. He's supported me and I've supported him throughout the years, but he, at some point, just became a big deal. I'm not even sure when it really happened. Actually, let me tell you the story of when it happened for me. And Boris, you can go back in and fill in prior to it. My mom was living. My mom had fallen ill, and she was living with me at the time. And so, I'm a single young man. Me and my daughter are playing some princess stuff. She's 5 or 6, I think. And I hear this familiar voice on TV, and my mom was like, "Who's this guy? I think I recognize him." And she's in the living room, just asking me questions about, don't you know this guy? I was like, I don't know anybody that's doing any kind of NASCAR stuff. Like, I don't watch NASCAR. I don't do NASCAR. I've never watched a NASCAR race in my life. And she's like, I swear that's a black guy from Dazzle. And I was like, first of all, I don't know that there's any black NASCAR drivers, Mom. And I come in the living room, we sit down, and there's nothing on there that I recognize. I don't recognize. I knew Jeff Gordon. I knew who that was from living in Charlotte. Next commercial break, I hear his voice. Had no idea who it was, and I'm like, yeah, I recognize that voice.
That dude sounds familiar.
Then I saw Boris's pretty face. I think you were sitting on a brick wall. I'm not even sure what race it was. And I was like, well, holy shit. When did this happen? Why did this happen? I think I was on, I don't know, I think it wasn't MySpace. I think it might have been Facebook at the time. And
MySpace.
You really dated yourself on that one, Barry.
We'll have to tell Brooklyn what MySpace is in a second. So,
hey, I'm trying to be truthful.
You're being authentic. I love it.
I reached out to him. He's like, "Yeah, that's me. This, no big deal. I'm on ESPN doing some NASCAR stuff." Okay, yeah. That was when I knew. Wait a minute. What's going on up in Charlotte? Like, I knew you went away, to college at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah.
And we obviously at that point when you went away, you went away. You didn't have all these connections.
Right.
I think we ran across paths multiple times before then. So I knew he was doing music. I think you had already gotten into slam poetry, and but I didn't have a way to follow it. And then bam, ESPN. I'm like, that's Dazzle breeds people. that clay dirt and Dazzle, it does something to a man, and we've been fortunate enough to see it, and here he is. He is.
So I got to ask my first question leading into this, kind of get everybody excited, is Barry, at what point are you in this story that you're telling of knowing Bluz, were you shirtless at his concert?
First of all, this is not about me. This is we're here to.
No, we're
It
talking.
is,
Well,
it is now.
Look, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know many folks that will tailgate for, and I'm not sure I'm going to get this right. Like, the event you were going to with Bluz was it a slam poetry contest? I mean, who goes and tailgates for that? And by the way, ends up going shirtless for the experience.
I I don't even, Boris, do you even remember this night?
Wait, hold on. You know what? Let's not hear it from Barry's perspective.
They showed up in a party bus, right?
Yeah, so I want to hear it from Boris's side. Boris, what do you remember about this and Barry's experience?
I don't know how they showed up until after the show, right? So Barry says he's coming. He's going to bring some people with him. So I just assume they're all going to get in a car or two or three and drive up. And I'm like, cool, I'll leave tickets at the door.
And this is Charlotte, right? Yeah, where's this? Okay, it's in Charlotte.
Yeah, they were coming from Columbia, right? You guys are coming from Columbia.
What year is this roughly, if you'd guess?
Oh, what's this year? Still 2020 or is it 2021? It's 12.
Yeah, I think it's either 12 or 10.
Yeah,
one of the two.
Yeah,
8 years ago. All right, not too bad.
Not too far off, right? So a group of them show up. They come to the slam. They have a great time. It's just, the slam is really, it's exciting. If you've never been, especially to the one that we do, it's an exciting time. And so afterwards, they all walk out, and I'm walking out with them, and I'm like, I figure we're going to a parking deck. And there's this bus that's been waiting for them the whole time. And it's full of alcohol. And at some point, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers showed up and I'm like, all right. So when Barry plans a road trip, don't think you're just hopping in a car. Expect a bus, expect it to have a DJ, fully loaded, whatever you need, because you're gonna have a great time on the way there, when you get there, and on the way back. So yeah, he showed up in a party bus. So that should do everything.
So Bluz, he also happened to mention to me that he was shirtless for the whole experience, which I might be exaggerating the truth.
A little bit of exaggeration. I woke up that morning. I knew he had a show. He was the host, and the headliner, sort of say. I guess you had just come off of one of your national wins, I think, or was in that area. You were well established at that point. So I knew people were coming. It was a radio station that was promoting it, and so I reached out to him that morning. I said, well, can you get me tickets? Because I thought, if I'm gonna drive up there, I want to at least be able to get in. and one thing led to another. I'm not sure exactly how a bus got involved. I knew that I didn't want to have to drive back, and so I was like, well, you know what? If we just got a limo, that'll solve that problem. And then limo led to a bus, because when I messaged a couple people, when you message our friend group, like I messaged 4 people, 9 people said, yeah, I'm coming. I was like, wait a minute, I messaged 4 y'all. And then 9 turned to 15, and then 15 turned to 20, and then, well, we'll meet you in the parking lot, because there was, Uncle Phil and his whole group. They're in Charlotte, so they're like, we'll meet you in the parking lot. It became an event outside of the event, and I thought, okay, we're going to a poetry reading. I'm going to, a collared shirt at least. So with my forethought, I said, let me hang it up. I don't want to be wrinkled. Hang it up. Then so I pulled out a purple bag, and there's crowns flowing, and this. Next thing I know, I wake up the next morning, and every picture I'm just in this T-shirt, like with the he called it the New Kids on the Block look. Everybody else has a collared shirt on.
Wait, I think I've seen one of these. Is it on Instagram? Did you post something the other day?
Yeah,
you go. I'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. So, I forgot to put. I mean, when we eventually went in, because we got there and we sent some people in, and they were like, "Nah, Boris isn't Yeah, there you go. See, everybody had a collared shirt on, just not
You,
me.
you're
Yeah.
kind of,
There you go.
yeah.
And now I see it. He's got, it's like
Does
a, man, that's like,
Island.
I mean, a
You're-
deep V
Hey,
undershirt.
I'm
So-
getting a Backstreet Boys vibe. I love it, man.
I am too. That's 100% where I was going with this. None of this New Kids on the Block stuff.
No.
I blame
Where's Phil?
I
That's great.
blame Phil because he's here to
Because he's not here to defend himself.
Boris didn't help things. We walked in and, I thought it was like intermission, but it was really during somebody's really heartfelt poem. And we came in pretty loud. And, when the bouncers come up to you at the poetry reading, you've done some stuff. And so, but we got through it. And we had a good time.
That is I love that story in so many ways. But let's talk about Bluz. Let's Bluz. And do you want me to call you Boris, Bluz? Like, what's best for you?
Whatever's comfortable, man.
Cool. Well, I like Bluz because that's awesome. Tell us, like, how did you get into this form of being an artist? Right? Like, was this something you always did growing up? Was there like a moment when you're like, wow, I love this, I'm like really good at, like, explain how this started to become a passion for you?
That's a really great question because I didn't get to this point till I was like well into like college, but beforehand, in high school, shout out to Hillcrest, we write like I had this English teacher and she gave us this assignment to sort of rework Shakespeare for the present time, and the present time would have been like 93 or something like that. So I took Shakespeare and I wrote it modern, like this hip hop version of it. And I was
Wait. So you did like Hamilton version of Shakespeare before Hamilton was Hamilton?
I mean, it wasn't Hamilton levels, but the idea was there, right?
That's awesome, right?
So I wrote this thing, and it was about this kid from the west side of town, like this girl from the east side of town, and all the stuff that goes in there with to make it updated and accessible, at the time. And a teacher gave me like a C on it, and I was like, "Yo, are you crazy? This is like A+ work." But it was at that moment that I realized what poetry could do and what writing could do, like the imagination of how you can transform things to make it seem real, or that you can communicate a message better depending on how you write it. So through all that, I kept writing, and I wasn't serious. It was just assignment. It was kind of goofing off.
Can I ask? Like, so were you like, this is like English class and writing class? Were you good at those? I mean, did you like school? Were you good at school during the time?
Nah.
He got a C, so
That was only one assignment, though, right? And let's face it, that teacher obviously doesn't know what they were doing. We can all say
How
that
silly
now.
does she feel now? You got an Emmy and she gave you a C. It's like the people that didn't draft Jordan. It's like, whoops.
I enjoyed school. I think I enjoyed school more for the people and the socialization. I wasn't like a big fan of the work. I did enough to get by. I was that guy. But in high school, like most people, I had what'd you say, V?
I said you were a smart kid. He was. Let's not gloss over. He had advanced classes. He was no slouch, but he wasn't asserting himself. Let's say.
Yeah, I definitely was not asserting myself, like for sure. But so I had this wonderful. I say that now. If you'd have asked me this, like maybe at the time, she was not a wonderful girlfriend. So I had a girl, and in high school we were going to stay together, but do this distance thing. Things went really awry, and I was heartbroken. Like really, I was really fucked up. And at that point in time, I didn't know how to process those emotions. I felt very depressed, very like I'm done with life. But I didn't have, and pardon me as I say this, I did not have the courage to commit suicide, if that makes sense. I think that takes such a commitment to do. And I was like, well, I'm sad. I'm not that sad. So I started writing, and I just kept writing about how I felt. And I shared some of that stuff. I went to UNCC at the time, University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And it was very emo, like it was super dark, like, oh, the clouds follow me everywhere. If I could have dressed in black all the time, I would have done that. I was that guy.
You were My Chemical Romance embodied. Got it.
I was definitely there. And so people heard it and they were like, "Oh, that's good. Super sad, but it's pretty good." And then I met Jessica Care Moore. She came to the school once and did this amazing poem called Black Statue of Liberty, which completely transformed the way that I saw how I wanted to do things. Because the sad poems I learned were getting attention from the young ladies. And then I learned that sad poems could also turn into sex poems. And sex poems were very easy to do because they got all the oohs and ahs. And I was like, I will do this shit forever, right? I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm always gonna write these poems. And then again, I met Jessica Care Moore, who transformed the way that I thought, who transformed the way that I wanted people to feel. Because they related to her and they reacted to her work in such a manner that they wanted to be uplifted. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to make people feel. So from that point on, I just started writing different and I wanted to empower people. And it didn't matter what you look like. I just wanted you to feel better about yourself because that's how I felt. And then, so we fast forward, I graduate, I start working for Bay Heckle Communications, which is a TV station here in Charlotte. And I met some amazing people. And in college, I met some amazing people, which also, you know, got me to do other things. But the thing that kicked it off, the thing that really set everything off was Charlotte had this paper called Creative Loafing. And Creative Loafing did this sort of really small, like I literally like this big, sort of I say expose. It was like a profile. And they were like, "What are the things you love?" I was like, "Well, I love soccer, movies. I'm into NASCAR." And one of the NASCAR producers who happened to be reading that paper saw that and said, "Oh, a black guy that loves NASCAR. I've got ideas." So he calls me. He's like, "Hey, listen, we've got this idea. You want to try it?" And I was like, is this for real? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you guys serious? But I sat in on a meeting and it was super serious. So by the time we left the meeting, they were like, "We're gonna go to Indianapolis and shoot our first little commercial thing." And so I get a call from the young lady who's headed like the administration of booking everything, and I didn't know it was her. So she calls and says, "Hey," she called me by my name. "Hey, Boris, I need your social and your date of birth." And I was like,
and your checking account, and yeah, I'm gonna wire you a bunch of money, and you just got to return a little bit, right?
yeah,
It's
I
like,
was right there. I was like, yeah, I was like, first of all, who is this? And I was like, she was like, I think her name was Janie. "It's Janie from NASCAR. We just need it for your flight information." It's like, oh, okay. I swear to God, I thought you were about to scam me. And so, yeah, that's really what took off for me. Like I was at that point, I was a month in from having quit my job at the television station because things had just switched. So I was in this space of, yeah, are things going to work out? Like I took this leap of, I'm going to try this poetry thing for real, for real. And it was a month, and then bills were becoming real bills at the
yeah.
time, kids, and things needed to be taken care of. And I was like, all right, this thing's not working. And then I get the call from them, and they loved the first shot so much, the first shoot that we did so much that they ended up booking, shows for the rest of the year, which led into another year, which led into another year. So that was the part. That's where things got serious. That's when I said, I am a professional writer, poet, voiceover, all the things.
So when they did that, when Creative Loafing did this little, what you call a small expose of you, right, profile of you, they were doing it because of your spoken word that you were becoming known for.
Yes.
Got
Yes.
it. And so that's where the NASCAR guy was like, interesting. We have an African American likes NASCAR, specialist in spoken word. Like, let's see if there's synergy here, huh?
Yeah. So all those things synced up. But it syncs up because of the work that you put in before, right?
Oh, for sure.
You're out in the streets, you're doing this show, you're doing that, and you're not paying attention to what that means in the long run. It's just in those moments, you want to be great. You want to put forth a great product. You want to put forth a great presentation, a great show. And I tell people, who say, well, how do you stay in this, and how do you get good at it, or what can continues longevity? I'm like, all those things are great. The talent is great. Being super good at what you do is great. But if you're not like a decent person on the scene, like if you show up to a shoot or a meeting and you're just, and pardon my language, you're a dick, like no one's gonna want to work with you. No one's gonna want to work with you, no matter how good you are. They're gonna.
I can attest to that.
No matter how good you are at what you do, if you're just terrible to work with, no one wants that kind of headache. Like it's easier to get things done with if it's hard to do with people you like doing the hard thing with, then that it's great, But if it's easy to do, but someone's just to the point where you want to murder them at the end of it, like that messes with your peace. And I say, just be a good person. Just be a good person, and good things will come.
No doubt. So that was really, for lack of a better term, that was your break. I mean, this NASCAR opportunity was your first really massive opportunity, big chance it was your break, and you ended up doing it for 3 years.
Yeah, which was amazing to me. I figured it was just the one shoot. I thought we were just going to go to Indianapolis that day. I was going to get a nice little check, and I could just say, hey, this is a thing that I did. I think the time we got back, we shot it. We went on Monday, shot it Monday, Tuesday. It was ready to go by Wednesday before race that Sunday. By that next Monday, they were like, yo, do this again for the rest of the season. We want more of this. So it was a big turnaround.
Did you do any spoken word while you were in Indianapolis?
I did not. That was like my first time going to Indianapolis. Like
okay. Because, and I'm asking for a reason. So I was a manager over one of the sweetest people I've ever met, who was a spoken word artist. And, I didn't really have a feel for it because she was just like, oh, hey, I need this time off to do this, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't until one of my other coworkers comes up to me and goes, hey, you need to listen to what Teresa put together. And I was like, right on, that's cool. And going back to what you were saying about, what did you call it? Sex poetry?
Right.
So apparently she specialized in this. So I listened to, you're laughing because you know what's about to happen to me. So I'm like, whatever. And she's like, no. I'm like, let's listen to it. She's like, no, let's go to your office. Let's go to your office. You cannot listen to this here. And I was like, okay, whatever. I listened to 4 minutes on what I can only describe as the most beautiful, sensual blowjob poetry I'd ever heard in my life. I'm red 50 Shades of Red. I'm like, what the hell did I just listen to? Why is this like...
Look at Brooklyn. Look, Brooklyn's got her hand on her face. Jesus. Oh my
God. Brooklyn, I kid you not. This was like, it took me through the experience. And I was like, what's going on? This is so good, but so unfortunate that I get weird feelings. So I remember after that day, and I still to this day love her to death. I can't look her in the eye. I bet you do. So more power to you guys. God bless. It was done so well. And that's why I was curious. I didn't know if you played in that space because it sounds like the timeline, we may have been in and around Indy around the same time, even when Zeb was there. So sorry, that's my that's my one sex poetry story I have.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's lucrative if you do it right. It is, I bet. Literally sex sells, right? So those folks who navigate that world and that's their bread and butter, like they do very well with it. Because it's like you said, it's for folks who have never heard it. The first time that they hear it, they are blown away.
Blown away. Oh my god.
Okay, unintended. That was
Here
great.
we go.
He's a wordsmith. We gotta watch this one.
He was
exactly.
For that thing. So it was, for me, it was like super superficial. Like there wasn't. I knew why I was doing it, and then like, all right, that's not. I thought that's what I wanted to do, but that's not really what I wanted to do. But yeah, like if you show up somewhere and run a sex poem, guaranteed you're going to be the life of the party.
Dude, it was wild. It was wild. If I can find it, we'll post it to the Victus site, and I'll. Like, you got to hear it. This thing was unbelievable.
Why don't you just direct message it to us?
We will not post it to the Victus
Okay,
site.
I'll send in your DMs.
And,
I am going to message her though. She'll love that.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, but so let's get back on course a little bit. I sent them Joseph, your poem Joseph. A biblical poem. Now we're talking about blowjob poetry. So we've digressed a tad bit.
Just a hair. That I'll put that one on me, guys. Well,
So I got to tell you, I was Bluz. I had a chance to watch a lot of your stuff. Right, I watched a bunch of the NASCAR stuff, which was awesome. The one that I think it just surprised me the most, I would say, because I could relate to it, was I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, 2 little girls, and you're I think it's called the Hurricane, right, from a couple of years ago. And I was just like, I didn't know where you were going with it at first. And then you made that, you like, there's a point for everybody. If you're listening, go out and Google Bluz, Boris. We can even find a way to post a link to it. And Hurricane and his spoken word. And it was so funny. Like right about, there's like 30 or 60 seconds in, like you kind of make this switch and you realize you're talking about your daughter. And I was like, that's amazing. And I can totally relate. It was, if you guys haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It was super well done.
Thank you. Like, yeah, and Barry referenced the Joseph poem. Like a lot of my, I guess, more popular work is centered around my father. My experience as being a father and fatherhood. And it's the easiest. Those are the easiest poems to write because I love being a dad. Like that. Like out of everything I've ever done, that has been the most fulfilling experience. And naturally, it should, right? But I think my kids have just taught me so much about who I am, and they've taught me to be a better son. So the things that I've experienced with them, with the worry and the frustration, and I'm like, man, I did the same thing to my mom, and I have to go back and be like, yo, mom, dad, my bad. My bad. I did not realize, because when you're a kid or a teenager, you're in your own world. You think you do everything you do is right. Your parents can never tell you anything else. And when I went through it, I was like, yo, I could strangle this kid. And I'm like, my mom probably should have killed me like 7 different times. So I go back and I'm thankful for the experience enough to say I'm glad that my parents were patient. I'm glad that my parents loved me enough through their frustration to let me make my mistakes, but allow me to, learn from them and help me up at the same time, because I'm watching, my oldest now is 19 and my youngest, she's 12 now. So they're at these critical ages of learning experiences and choosing friends and making decisions that, will shape their lives. So yeah, those poems are super easy to write because the experiences are easier to reflect. So yeah, that the Hurricane one was really fun because that's a real story. Like that's a true story, and most of my writing is true. Yeah. So when my little one was like 3 or 4, we were having this pillow fight at their grandmother's house, and my 19-year-old at the time was like 10, maybe 9. And so it's like, hey, Dad, let's have a pillow fight. They're like, all right, cool. I'll be cool, Dad. We'll have a pillow fight. And we're going back and forth, right? Back and forth. And my baby girl at the time was just watching us do, like a tennis match. And she has this little pacifier in her mouth, just chewing on it at 2 or 3 years old that she shouldn't have had. And then my daughter, my oldest, like hits me. And in my head, I'm like, that was a little aggressive. I'm like, all right. This pillow fight just got real, right? I'm a pretty big dude, but I didn't hit her that hard. Like I just put a little bit on it, and I promise you, she did this complete like World Cup soccer flop, just flying onto the ground, like, oh, my bones, I'm watching. Really like overdoing it. I'm like, really? But my baby girl's watching this whole thing, and she's she's watching and she thinks it's all real. So she walks up on me, and then bites the hell out of like my knee. That's as tall as she was. And I was like, oh my God, like zombie baby just bit me. But the whole time, my oldest is on the floor cracking the hell up. She thinks it's hilarious. And I'm like, yo, this little girl just came to the defense of her big sister because that's her big sister.
In a big way, too. Not just like, hey, Dad, you shouldn't have done that. Like, I'm going to bite you.
Yeah, like, yo, if it's violence you want, violence you're going to get.
How proud are you in that moment, right? Because like you're looking at this little kid and you're like, you don't stand a chance. She could have given two shits. She's like, all right, Dad, let's go. Like, I love that stuff.
And she didn't care who I was. It didn't matter that I was her dad. I was just a person who put harm on her sister. And that's all that she needed. And so that's how that poem was born, from that moment right there. And I was like, I am super proud and scared as hell.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the way you set that up is so fantastic when you did it, when I watched it live. Like, 'cause I didn't know where you were going, and then you make that connection. I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah.
And the one I sent of Hurricane was, I think it was your first reading of it. I think you still had it written on paper, so it was still kind of raw in his delivery of it.
That was
evolved, but
the New Eurekan in Brooklyn. Yeah, it was, and that was fun. That was because that space allows you to kind of do that, to do like new stuff, raw stuff, because they're like excited about the new stuff. But
well, so let me ask you about that, Bluz, because as an artist, different artists, in order to be, I think most artists find that in order to be really successful, they have to be very authentic, which means you're putting yourself out there a ton, right? And people might love it, and people might not like it at all, and that sort of vulnerability can be challenging, right? I mean, but you seem like a super confident guy. Like, do you ever, as an artist, as you're developing new material or going through old material, how has vulnerability played into your artistic process?
At every moment, there are plenty of poems that I will never share. The culture these days is like trauma porn. Like, in order to win a slam or get super likes, you have to put your pain out there. Which I understand the idea of it. But the drawback I have is we have these poets, especially the younger generation, who will put out their personal pain and the things that they've been through. And it rips them apart on stage to the point where they leave the stage crying and just, I feel like, more broken than they were. And in my head, and this is the old grown man in me, is like, why'd you do that? Like, if you're gonna cry at the end of a poem, why put yourself through that? And I get the idea, if you're at an open mic and it's just sharing, that you share it, and then maybe someone will have a connection with that story. Like Zeb, you had a connection with the Hurricane poem. There was a connection there. But for a competition, in order to win, you would hurt yourself. That's the part I'm like, yo, why would you do that? So I've been called an asshole for saying that, because most people won't say that. In poetry, everything's supposed to be nice. Get that. But in a competition, and Barry, we're competitive people. When you're trying to win a thing, you're going to do what you need to win. And that's the part I'm like, are you willing to tear yourself apart for a win? That I think it's the same as someone who has really bad knees. Like, are you doing this to win? If you keep doing this, you'll never walk again. Like, it didn't make sense to me. So vulnerability, in a sense of being able to share a work and making connection, is always in process and play for me. And it's not so much the traumatic parts. My vulnerability is, I like to write funny poems, and it's hard to be funny. I think being a comedian on this planet is the hardest job ever. To make people intentionally laugh at your perspective on life, right? So that's saying, I'm giving you opinion, and I hope that you think it's funny. And if you don't think it's funny, it's an indictment of you saying, you're not funny and you're not a good person. So all that vulnerability is out there because you're putting yourself out there. And it's hard to do in a poem because I think when people hear poetry, they expect this sort of serious, either very cool or lovey thing. Yeah, that part, And for me, they don't see it coming. So the hurricane was very vulnerable because it was based off a true story. Joseph was also very vulnerable because it was a relationship with my son. But yeah, those things are super hard to do, but they do offer the most authenticity to your craft and your work. So the payoff is really high, but sometimes it's at the expense of your mental and emotional health.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, have you ever gone in and you're like, you thought you were going to crush it and you just, for whatever reason, just bombed? I don't know if it's the words, the show or whatever you're working on, you're like, that didn't work the way I expected.
Listen, I was doing this showcase to book some college gigs, and I have this poem called Ugly Babies. Now, Ugly Babies, it has a setup and a punchline. It's hilarious. Like the drunk people in different crowds, it's great. That day when I tried it in front of a bunch of college kids, it was crickets. And there's this point when you're doing poems that if you've done them enough, you can think about other things while you're running this poem, right? It becomes automatic. So I'm in the middle of this poem and I've said 3 things that usually get laughs that didn't get laughs. And I'm thinking, I got to get the hell out of this. And like I was like, you have to end now. And I this poem and I was like, so who here has parents? I just moved on. I don't even the transition was awkward. The way I got out of it was awkward. I did not do well at that showcase. And it was because of that poem. And I was like, and I just knew the poem. I was like, this Ugly Babies is gonna kill. Everybody's gonna laugh. It's gonna be great. Went out there with all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Which just makes it so much worse.
The bed, and it was like It was a very learning lesson. That's not the first time I've bombed, but that's been the biggest bomb I think I've ever done because there was a lot of people in there.
I was unrelated. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast a while ago, and I can't remember who he was talking to, but the conversation evolved around how certain things set off, like they went into it and something had triggered before they actually got on stage to do the performance, and they bombed, and they were basically going back and forth telling stories about the very few times when they've just completely gone unhinged or gotten crickets from the crowd, and kind of what led into that and what they did different after and not. And he was saying it was very rare for him, but he remembers the few times when it was like just like you said. But that's part of the process, right? I mean, if you're going to put yourself out there, you can't always be. You hope you're always going to be fantastic, and the crowd loves it. But you don't know what's going through the crowd. You don't know if everybody's, if they're drinking or not drinking or all that other stuff, right? But that's just part of what it's like to be a performer, isn't it?
Right. And I think my learning lesson, if there was a trigger point, it's I tend to know how to follow, right? If someone goes up and they're killing it, I tend to know how to match that energy, to ride that wave. And the trouble with that set was we usually have a comedian who brings you up, and so they'll do like 2 or 3 minutes before they bring you up because they're also trying to get booked as a host, so they're doing their thing. This guy was doing, every time I think about it, I'm like, I'm the dumbass that followed up with this. He was doing the dead baby jokes. He was doing just baby jokes. They were just not working well, but he kept doing them. And in my head, I was like, well, my poem's going to be better than those jokes.
Yeah.
So again, super overconfident and poor judgment on my behalf. Went out there and did probably worse than he was doing. Thus, poem only got halfway through, and that whole situation was awkward. But yeah, I remember vividly thinking I could do better than what he was doing with these dead baby jokes. And dead baby jokes are just, unless you're Jason Stefanek, it's not. It's not.
See, now that's confusing because I would assume he would have done better with the dead baby jokes don't get me wrong, just a quick disclaimer, dead baby jokes are the worst. They're absolutely awful. Their whole intent is to go so top shelf with audacity that it induces some sort of morbid chuckle out of you. Now that that's been said, I remember prior to me being a dad, I would be like, oh, how many babies does it take to paint a house? Ha ha ha, this is funny. The moment I had a child, I was like, no, nothing about that is funny. Not at all. So I would think in the college crowd, you would think that would land a little bit, but it would make sense to me why ugly babies maybe not, right? Because I hear ugly babies as a dad. We all have friends that have ugly babies. I'm interested. I want to hear this poem. But for college kids, it's ripping bong shots and
sound like they were
and
all
whatever else they do. So
there is. I'm gonna say, Jason, I have seen some really ugly babies, and you can't tell the parents, but man, it's so. I turned to my wife and I'm like, that baby's so ugly, and you can't laugh to them, but you laugh behind them. So
that's the basis of the poem. There's one line in the poem that says, "Bless your baby's heart."
Yeah, right. We were making that joke when my daughter was born. If they say, "Oh, she's precious," that means she's an uggo. And I was literally waiting for someone to call my kid precious. I was like, no.
I don't see that, Jason. I'd probably use that word because I genuinely mean it. But yeah, you got
just 30 nurses were telling me this. I guess that's their code word within their own group of friends for the ugly baby card.
Baby card. I like it.
Mine's cute as shit, so I don't have to worry about that. So she got her mama's looks.
I was going to say it's all Marty on that one.
All Marty, thank
Bluz,
God.
Bluz, will you share some spoken word or anything that you want to with us and everybody listening?
Sure. Let's see.
And you can, as much or as little, you pick whatever you want. Barry, you might have a favorite. You can encourage him on if you want to, but
no, I want him to go in his bank of things.
Yeah,
it's not like asking a stand-up to do a quick 5-minute set, is it? Is it the same thing?
No, not really. I think, you know what? Because most comedians have a set of jokes that they're ready to do.
Kind of a pocketed version. Because I don't want this to come across as hey, do the jokes. Because I always feel bad when comedians have to be funny, because it's well, that's not kind of how funny works. And I didn't know if spoken word was similar to that.
So let me preface this with several times I've needed some voiceover or some just some creative work, and I'll text Bluz or call Bluz and tell him kind of the gist of it, and I'm expecting think through this, get back to me when you come up with something. I think the last time we were on the phone, we talked about it for about 15 minutes, just the concept, and I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. 15-minute conversation. 3 minutes after we get off the phone, I get a text with a voice message. Here it is. That's how quick he is. When something strikes him. So, I have the utmost confidence that he has things in his pocket that he's done 100, 200 times that he can probably say and write something while he's saying it. So, take us away, boys.
All right. So I'll do two, right? I'll do two. And I'll explain this first one after I do it. I want to go to an amusement park that's dangerous. Make me sign a series of forms and waivers because I'm entering at my own risk. Hopping on a ride that will most likely result in a slip disc, give me something dangerous. Just so I can have stories to tell my grandchildren that start back in my day, bumper cars did 35 miles an hour and ran off diesel fuel. Back in my day, roller coasters were wood-made, coated with lead-based paint and with zip ties, and if you didn't die, then you got a t-shirt that said, "I rode the Widowmaker and I survived." Back in my day, there were no height requirements. Every man, woman, and child took 2 shots of Epicac, climbed into the Gravitron, while a dude named Randy with 3 fingers on each hand yells out, "All right, goddammit, hold on." Back in my day, the teacups could easily pull 6 Gs. No food was gluten-free. We ate what we wanted. The haunted house was actually fucking haunted. Our amusement park was in part built on cursed burial grounds. We lost 6 kids in the summer of '89. The customer service was sketchy. Miss Gladys in the ticket booth with a gold tooth kept a loaded handgun in plain sight next to a sign that read, "I wish you would." And don't get me started on the petting zoo. Do you know how we washed our hands when we were through petting a cow, gorilla, rattlesnake, wolverine, or kangaroo? We didn't, because back in my day, that was amusing. So
I love it. That's great. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I love getting to write poems like that. And that poem was also based off of y'all remember Thunder Road at Kellen's? Did y'all remember that ride? So I Barry, you remember riding when you were younger, and it was fun and exciting. The last year before they took it out, I rode that, and I was probably right at around 30 something, like closer to my 40s. Either way, no business getting on that damn ride at that age. It was terrible. It was the most terrible experience. I was like, they should have ripped this ride out years ago. It was just bad. But it reminded me, I was like, have we always been getting on these dangerous ass rides? Like, these things should have not have happened. Do you remember when the petting zoo scandal? Well, I mean, not scandal, but remember when the petting zoo was the thing that you're supposed to wash your hands thoroughly because kids were getting sick? I remember going to petting zoos all the time and just petting whatever the hell we could put our hands on and never washing our hands. I was like, yo, we were living dangerous, super dangerous. And then now there's this documentary called Class Action Park.
I was going to ask you, have you seen it?
Yes. I was like, I don't know. It's amazing that more people didn't die. Like, it was just an amazing amazing time to be a part of thrill rides. And it was just that amusement park was so much fun to ride because it just all the nostalgia of things that we got on and rode, and I was like, damn, those things were dangerous as hell, but they were fun.
Yeah. Oh man, that was awesome. And I think we could all relate in some part to that growing up, right? Or even now.
Right.
Class Action Park, was this a Netflix thing?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's called so the name of the actual park is called Action Park. And I think Netflix did a documentary called Class Action Park about all the people that got injured and all the fact that they really didn't have any rules. Like if somebody came up with an idea, they're like, sure, let's do that. I haven't seen it, but I was, okay, I'm going to get a little, people are going to make fun of me for this, but I was watching Kelly Ripa because, I like Kelly Ripa, but I was watching Kelly Ripa a couple weeks ago and she was talking. Barry, you laughing at me, man? Come on, dude. Nothing weird about that. I think she's cute and funny. Anyway,
there it is. We found it. She's cute.
She's cute and funny. But she was talking about how when she was growing up, like they went to Action Park. Like that was the thing to do in the summer. And so I need to go watch that documentary because it looks like people were getting injured all over the place. And it was like, if you could think of it, they'll do it.
We had growing up, we had this thing at the top of our mall called Physical Whimsical. And you look back now and you're terrified. Kids would be crawling up like some 4 or 5 stories high on these rubber bands. They'd be snapping. You'd literally hear, pow, and then you'd see a kid just fall down the rubber bands, get caught. My brother broke his collarbone there because there are these giant foam, I think like tackling dummies for football, right? They just kind of swing there. These kids are just pushing them. He gets knocked down to the ground, totally cracks his collarbone. But this is just another Tuesday back in the day, which was a Wednesday, right? But it's so funny nowadays. You look at that, and that would never exist ever. So, he's better now.
So I'm going to do another piece if that's cool.
Yeah, of course, man.
All right. Get it up here. Right. Sometimes I'm reminded of my age. My bones crack and they ache. Their bones crack and they ache, but for heaven's sake, sometimes I'm reminded that this experience and this ride has been beautiful. But there was one day where I felt renewed when a package came inside a small box, and inside the small box were two little round containers filled with some CBD Victus to rub on my pain, all on my pain, and push my pain out of the receptors, interacting with my receptors, my human interaction. And these days we need more human interaction. This action sent from the Victus health folks who use their pharmaceutical grade CBD products are developed with the highest quality. The highest quality is what I need in my life these days to keep pushing forward. I'm trying to build more muscle as I get older. We know how things go when you get over the hill. They say your hill gets a little bit more rounder around the stomach. So you hit the gym trying to get your muscles worked out. But the more you work out, the more you seem to ache because you are older in age. But Team Victus comes through to help you push through those pains naturally from the earth. CBD with no THC, but sometimes THC is cool if you're just trying to smoke, but that's not what Team Victus wants you to do. They want you to get healthy the right way. They have these ambassadors, and they are the most muscular figures that you could see, but you don't have to be that guy, that woman. You can be yourself. You can be as healthy as you want to be with Team Victus. You can find that person that you used to be. And even better now that you are growing into someone that you want to be with health. Team Victus, pull that thing off the shelf and rub it on to the parts of you that are aching. There are days where I wake up and I'm aching, but I know I'm growing to be a better me.
Oh man.
He wrote that 10 years ago.
I didn't see that one coming at all.
That was 10 years today. He wrote that.
The cool thing was the package arrived last night, and because Barry was like, I'm gonna send you something. I forgot he told me that. So I'm like, what is this box on my thing? And we're going through, and I'm like, oh, this is the stuff from Victus. And so I was trying to, I was on my mind to do something. And as I was trying to write, the dad part kicked in, and my daughter's homeschooled, so I'm cafeteria manager, also homeroom guy, also I'm all the things. So I was working in the cafeteria, aka making eggs and bacon, and I was trying to write the poem, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. But yeah, it was. Those are the things too. Like when we talk about when inspiration hits or process, for me, those processes work really fast, especially if it's something that I believe in, and even more so, like people I love believe in. So, like when Barry was talking about the conversation we had, it was working for something for the Morants, but it was because we both believe in who it was for and what it was supposed to be. It was just that fast. And after going through the Team Victus website, and I saw what you guys do and what you do it for, I'm like, oh, I could just probably talk and let the words come and let the ideas and the inspiration flow through. But it's because you all are doing something amazing for people and not necessarily for we're trying to make $1 million. Like that's natural. Who doesn't want to do that? But to help people feel better, just simply feel better. Like I am 44 years old and I am working out. And today my knees reminded me, like, yo, you're not 18 anymore. It's tough getting up. But to know that there's products out there that will help you naturally, is amazing. Because we all went through the whole world beforehand where these products were out there, but they weren't the best things for you, and then you find out 20 years later, you got something going on with you. But I'm so proud that you guys sent me these things, and that I get to be on this podcast. Just to know amazing people doing some amazing shit is really a part of it. So
Bluz, thanks for saying that. That's awesome. I mean, you're awesome, and I think some of what you said makes me think back to, like, there's a guy named Simon Sinek who talks about the why of why people do certain things, or kind of drives at their motivation factor. And a lot of us talk about the impact that we want to have in a health way, right? A positive impact on society, a positive impact on health. I mean, you're creating words and sharing your talents at expressing things in a way that create a positive impact on people. So I can see why this stuff is natural to you. I mean, you're obviously tremendously talented at it, but when you've got something authentic, obviously you wrote that. You got the product last night, and you wrote it this morning naturally, or you did stuff for the Morant family. Yeah, awesome, man. Look, I'm blown away. I'm going to ping you offline. I've got a YPO event that my wife and I are hosting, and I'd love to hire you to come down for that. And we pay pretty well too, so that's not a bad thing either.
I've not made weird.
Yo, Jason,
Hey,
you want me to hire you for that event too? You can pass me our cocktails.
Man. Can I come around? I'll put the skirt on. I know what it entails.
I'm Boris's manager.
Hey, Bluz, where can we find more of your stuff? Where can we support you?
Definitely follow me on Instagram, BLUZ. Most of my stuff gets parked there and promoted there. I'm also on Twitter, MRBLUZ. It's funny how I'm talking to you guys now, because I was doing an event and I was saying the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook, and the young people, why do you keep putting the in? I was like, because I'm old and I can. And
that's right.
Well, Facebook was originally the Facebook, right?
Right. And I was like, I'll double down and put S's on it, so it's the Instagrams and the Facebook.
Go on the line. Was that's at a Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson movie where they work at Google? He's
that's
like, go
right.
on the line and figure it out.
Right. So those are the things that you can find me at most frequently. I'm also on Spotify. I have a song called Stronger that's on Spotify. If you just search Bluz and then Stronger, it should pop up. It's on Spotify, Tidal, and I think it's on iTunes as well. It's all the platforms, as the young kids say. I'm on all platforms. So,
do you host any events or anything that people, assuming COVID ever gets, we get beyond it? I mean, are there things that we can go to and help support you on?
So for sure, like we still do our slams, and we're outdoors with it. Maybe in November, depending on what the weather is doing. It's supposed to be fall, but it feels like early summer outside. So if you go to slamcharlotte.com, it has all our dates on there. But as this new job that I have working with Blumenthal, I've developed some really cool programs. Actually, I'm not sure when this will air, but if you're listening, tomorrow, which would be October 24th, I came up with this event called Uptown Sweat. And what we're doing is doing a complete day of outdoor fitness, pulse yoga, Zumba, fight to get fit, yoga, and like this body party fitness thing. Some really cool instructors, absolutely free all day. And we're going to try to continue to other Saturday in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you go to blumenthalarts.org, that's the website. It'll have like all these really cool things that we're doing. So lots of cool events that I'm hosting. Most of them are in the Charlotte area, but if folks want to,
at a minimum, next time you guys, so obviously if you're doing it tomorrow, we can't probably handle that so quick, but next time you do one of those events, and if you want us to send free product for a bunch of people that are going to come to attendance, happy to.
For sure. Yeah, we would definitely love that. We definitely love that.
And we have
that'd be great.
Some of our team is actually in Charlotte, Boris. So Josh actually got accounts based out of Charlotte, and Garrett as well. So
Garrett's up there. Dr. Jeremy.
I'll come up and we can all get together and have dinner on Dr. account maybe. So we probably get a McDonald's or Wendy's or something.
Dollar menu.
Dollar menu.
We'll definitely get together really soon.
That's perfect, man. Just let me know. It'd be perfect.
I appreciate you coming on, man. I love you,
Bluz, you're the man. It's been a real honor talking to you, hearing you, watching you on the line, as Jason would like to say. Keep inspiring people. I mean, you're kind of a perfect example of what we say, live victorious, have a victorious lifestyle. So keep it up, and we'll be in touch. And for everybody out there, stay safe, and don't forget to vote too.
Right on. Appreciate it, y'all.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Bluz, thanks so much, man. Take
Thanks,
care, guys.
Bluz. See ya.